Ghana has banned all foreigners from trading in its local gold market. This follows the enactment of a new law earlier this month that grants
Did you know that one of the biggest reasons Africa has never fully enjoyed the benefits of its abundant resources is because of the dominance of foreign companies? For decades, outsiders, especially from the West, have controlled Africa's mining industries, providing the capital, extracting the minerals, and walking away with the profits, while Africa itself was left with little to show. But now, one country has decided to change the game. Ghana, under its newly elected president John Dramani, has taken a bold and unexpected step by banning foreigners from buying and selling gold mined by local artisanal miners. For the first time, Ghana is seizing full control of its gold, ensuring that value stays within its borders. This groundbreaking move mirrors a growing trend across the Sahel and much of Africa, where leaders are beginning to push back against exploitation and reclaim ownership of their resources. The question now is, what will be the impact of Ghana's decision, not just for its own economy, but for the future of Africa as a whole? On April 2nd, 2025, the world woke up to news that sent shockwaves through the global gold industry. On that day, Ghana's President John Mahama signed into law a bill that had been passed just weeks earlier in Parliament. The new law granted exclusive authority over gold mining in Ghana to a state body known as the Ghana Gold Board, or Goldbot. But Goldbot is not just a regulator. It is now the sole buyer, seller, and exporter of all gold produced by Ghana's artisanal and small-scale mining sector. In other words, no gold leaves Ghana without passing through Goldbot, shifting power away from foreign companies and placing it firmly in the hands of the state. You see, before this groundbreaking law, foreign companies operated freely in Ghana's gold sector. They would buy gold directly from artisanal miners at very cheap prices, exploit the weak regulation of the market, and then export the gold abroad to be refined and resold at huge profits. The real wealth of Ghana's soil was fueling industries in foreign lands while leaving the local miners and the nation itself with crumbs. But that era is now over. Under the new law, only the Ghana Gold Board, Goldbot, has the authority to buy, sell, and export gold produced by the artisanal and small-scale sector. This has changed the rules completely. For those asking what this means for the economy, we will explain later. But what is clear right now is that the power has shifted. Foreign companies are now excluded from the local gold market. They can no longer walk into mining towns, purchase gold at unfairly low prices, and ship it out unchecked. Instead, if they want Ghana's gold, they must go through Goldbot. This doesn't mean foreigners have been expelled entirely. They can still apply to buy gold, but only under the strict oversight of the state. Their activities are now regulated, their profits monitored, and their freedom to exploit severely curtailed. The announcement was made swiftly after the law was signed. In April, the Ghanaian government sent out a clear message to all foreign investors, including Western and Chinese firms. You are banned from buying and selling gold directly in Ghana's market. Prince Kwame Minka, the spokesperson of the Ghana Gold Board, declared in an official statement that starting May 1, 2025, every single company, local or foreign, must conduct gold transactions exclusively through Goldbot. In simple terms, the days of unregulated foreign dominance are over. But there is more. One of the most striking requirements of the new law is that, from May 1st onward, every gold purchase in Ghana must be made with licenses approved directly by the Ghana Gold Board. In other words, all the old licenses previously issued by the Precious Minerals Marketing Company, the body that once oversaw mineral trading in the country, are now invalid. That entire system has been dismantled, and the stakes are high. Anyone caught trading gold without a new Goldbot license will not only lose their right to operate, but will face criminal charges under Ghanaian law. This marks a total reset of the rules in one of the world's most lucrative gold industries. But even before new licenses were rolled out, the government took another bold step. All gold transactions in Ghana were required to be carried out exclusively in Ghana cedis, the local currency, and priced according to official rates set by the Bank of Ghana. This meant that the country's own currency, not the US dollar or any other foreign denomination, became the standard for the gold trade. To kickstart this massive restructuring, the government allocated $279 million to the newly created Ghana Gold Board, enabling it to purchase and export at least 3 tons of gold per week. The move was decisive, but it left many asking the same question. Why? Why would Ghana take such a drastic step, blocking foreign companies from dominating its local gold market? And more importantly, how does this bold restructuring actually strengthen Ghana's economy? The answers reveal a story much bigger than gold, one that could change how Africa handles its resources in the future. Speaking on the issue, Kwame Minka, spokesperson for Ghana's Gold Board, explained that the new law was designed to transform the country's gold industry and stabilize its economy. According to him, the policy would provide Ghana with the much-needed reserves to strengthen its foreign exchange and help combat the long-standing problem of gold smuggling. It will also ensure that Ghana harnesses the entire gold value chain, from extraction to refining, value addition, and marketing both locally and internationally, he said. In simple terms, the Ghana Gold Board was created not just to regulate, but to boost the gold sector, increase national revenue, and ensure that Ghana finally takes full advantage of its most valuable resource. On another level, the new system is also expected to help curb the issue of illegal mining, a challenge that has plagued Ghana for decades and damaged its environment. But here's the twist. Right after the law was introduced, it faced resistance. Several groups argued that instead of reducing illegal mining, the restrictions could drive more miners underground and make the problem even worse. So, is this bold reform a solution to Ghana's gold troubles, or could it backfire? Let's analyze it. Illegal gold mining has been one of Ghana's biggest challenges for years, and in recent times, the problem has only grown worse. Reports show that illegal mining has hit record highs, and the reasons are not hard to see. First, the global price of gold has been soaring, reaching new peaks and drawing more people into the trade. Second, like in many African countries, unemployment remains a major issue in Ghana. With few opportunities, especially for young men, many are left with no choice but to mine gold illegally just to survive. Lacking money to obtain legal licenses, they resort to crude tools, picks, shovels, and sometimes even their bare hands to dig gold from the soil. But what may seem like survival for individuals has snowballed into severe economic and environmental crises for the nation. And here's where the story gets deeper. The issue of illegal mining is not just about struggling local miners. Reports reveal that foreign investors, especially Chinese operators, have also become deeply involved. In fact, they are the ones who have fueled the expansion of illegal mining across Ghana, bringing in equipment, money, and networks that have multiplied the scale of operations. Together with their local counterparts, these groups have established thousands of illegal mining sites scattered across the country. And here's the shocking part. It wouldn't be as damaging if these were carefully prepared lands set aside for mining. But guess what? The majority of these illegal mining sites are not barren stretches of land waiting to be exploited. They are farmlands, acres upon acres of fertile soil that farmers have toiled for years to cultivate. Lands that once produced cocoa, maize, cassava, and other crops vital to Ghana's economy and food security. But driven by the soaring price of gold and fueled by greed, local businessmen, politicians, and artisanal miners have struck deals with foreign investors, particularly Chinese operators, to turn these farmlands into illegal mining sites. Imagine the destruction. Massive cocoa farms, carefully nurtured for decades, uprooted and wiped away in a matter of days, all in the name of gold. But if you think that's the worst part, think again. The real tragedy lies in how these lands are taken. Many farmers do not willingly sell. Why would they? For generations, their livelihoods, their pride, and their survival have depended on the soil. But when farmers refuse to sell, intimidation begins. Pressure is applied. Threats are whispered. Deals are forced. Imagine being a cocoa farmer, watching your life's work destroyed. For years, you've depended on your harvest to provide for your family, to educate your children, to build your future. And then, one day, you are told you must give it up because someone found gold beneath your land. This is the painful reality facing many Ghanaian farmers today. Their lands, once the backbone of the country's agriculture, are being stripped away, not for food security, not for national development, but for the greed of a few. And as farms are destroyed, the nation pays the price. Agriculture, the lifeblood of any economy, is being sacrificed for illegal gold. And in the end, what remains is not wealth, but devastation. But the destruction doesn't end with farmlands. Illegal mining has also crept into Ghana's forests and rivers, leaving scars that may take generations to heal. Vast stretches of green, once home to wildlife and a natural shield against climate change, are now stripped bare, replaced by craters of mud and toxic waste. Even worse, the rivers that millions of Ghanaians depend on for drinking water and farming have been poisoned. Mercury and other dangerous chemicals used by illegal miners seep into the soil and flow downstream, contaminating entire communities. What was once a source of life has now become a source of sickness. Fishermen can no longer rely on their catch. Families can no longer drink from their streams, and children in villages across the country are falling sick from water that was once pure. And yet, the miners keep digging. With every rise in the price of gold, more forests are cleared, more rivers destroyed, and more farmland lost forever. The cost of illegal mining is not just economic, it is environmental, social, and generational. Because when the farms are gone, when the forests are gone, and when the rivers are poisoned, what will Ghana's children inherit? These are the devastating consequences of illegal mining, and that is exactly why the government of Ghana created the Ghana Gold Board, Goldbot. Its mission is not just to regulate the gold industry, but to choke off illegal mining at its roots. In fact, rather than increasing illegal activity, Goldbot could be the very tool that eliminates it. Think about it. By banning unregulated gold trading and placing the entire sector under state control, the government has cut off the escape routes. Under the new law, illegal miners cannot sell their gold to foreigners, as they once did in backroom deals. The only channel for trade is through Goldbot. But to sell there, you need a state license, and illegal miners don't have one. If they try to go through the board, they'll be exposed immediately. And so, the logic is simple, but effective. If illegal miners cannot sell their gold, their operations lose value. What is the point of mining if there is no buyer? By removing the market, the government has made illegal mining a much less attractive venture. But while this makes sense to many inside Ghana, the decision has not gone unchallenged. Criticism has poured in, not just from local voices, but from abroad. Western analysts, financial institutions, and so-called experts have all raised alarms. The loudest of these voices came from S&P Global Ratings, which claimed that Ghana's ban on foreigners trading in the local gold market would harm the country's economy, particularly its agricultural sector. The government's initiative to purchase gold from artisanal miners is formalizing the trade and significantly boosting exports, particularly in the context of high gold prices. However, this has negative implications for the agricultural sector, especially cocoa farming. That was the warning issued by S&P Global Ratings in a statement on Ghana. But S&P wasn't alone. Other analysts also voiced concerns, though in a more cautious tone. Patrick Stevenson, director of the Fiscal Governance and Policy Institute in Ghana, urged a measured approach. He emphasized that while reform was necessary, the Ghana Gold Board must balance its ambition with the need to maintain investor confidence. According to him, if the reforms are pushed too quickly or without sufficient engagement with investors, they could send the wrong signal to foreign markets. In other words, while the law aims to secure Ghana's gold and strengthen its economy, critics fear that the pace and manner of its implementation could trigger unintended consequences. Currently, if you look at the government's decisions, a lot appears to be happening rather erratically. That may give a different impression to potential investors. That may be a cause for worry, particularly foreign direct investments, Patrick Stevenson warned. He argued that while reforming the gold sector was necessary, the pace and approach risked being seen as abrupt and even hostile to investors. In his words, the new law could easily be interpreted as overly nationalistic in character, a signal that Ghana was closing its doors to foreign participation. And that, he said, is the kind of perception that could unsettle investor confidence. But Stevenson raised another point of concern: the currency issue. Under the new rules, all gold transactions are settled in Ghanaian cedis, not in US dollars. On the one hand, this strengthens Ghana's local currency and reduces reliance on foreign exchange reserves. But on the other hand, it creates a new layer of risk for mining companies. Why? Because most of their heavy machinery, spare parts, and operational equipment are imported from abroad and must be paid for in dollars or euros. If companies are forced to accept payments in cedis, they risk losing money on foreign exchange fluctuations. You've got a foreign exchange risk there that we should think about, Stevenson stressed. In short, while the government sees the Goldbot as a pathway to sovereignty and greater revenue, critics like Stevenson fear it could backfire by spooking investors, disrupting capital flows, and introducing financial risks that could weigh on Ghana's economy. However, we do not agree with Patrick Stevenson, because every time an African country decides to take charge of its resources and implement policies that reduce foreign control, Western analysts always sound the alarm. They warn of investor flight, economic collapse, and instability. But think about it. Who dominates Ghana's gold sector today? The answer is clear: the West. This domination did not happen by accident. It was the product of decades of economic reforms imposed on Africa. In the 1980s and 1990s, under the structural adjustment programs of the IMF and World Bank, Ghana liberalized its mining sector. The promise was growth, investment, and development. What followed was an influx of foreign companies, especially from Canada, Australia, and South Africa, who gained access to Ghana's gold under terms that heavily favored them. Then, in 2006, the Minerals and Mining Act opened the sector even further, cementing the dominance of foreign firms. Companies like Anglo Gold Ashanti's Obuasi Mine and Newmont Goldcorp's Ahafo Mine became giants, extracting billions in gold while Ghana earned far less than it should have. The majority of Ghana's biggest gold mining companies are Western-owned, and this is the heart of the problem. Despite being one of the world's richest gold producers, Ghana is still struggling financially. Instead of wealth, it finds itself trapped in debt, borrowing billions from Western-led institutions like the IMF and the World Bank just to keep its economy afloat. Mahama Ayariga, the majority leader in Ghana's parliament, captured the irony best. "We are sitting on gold, yet we are starving." His words point to a bitter truth. External financiers pre-finance small-scale miners, take the gold abroad, and leave almost nothing behind. The revenue that should transform the nation vanishes overseas. So what Ghana needs, and what Africa as a whole needs, is not more foreign investors. For decades, African countries have opened their doors wide, hoping foreign direct investment would bring prosperity. But after all this time, what does the continent have to show for it? Crippling debt, collapsed industries, broken promises, and a resource wealth that continues to enrich others while leaving Africans in poverty. Nothing but loss of revenue, dependency, and exploitation. That has been the story of foreign control in Ghana's gold industry. For decades, mining companies have taken the lion's share of profits while leaving behind destruction. They degrade the rich agricultural soil until it can no longer produce food. They pollute rivers and streams, poisoning the very water that sustains life. The truth is clear: Ghana does not need more foreign investors. What it needs is to take full charge of its own gold. After all, Ghana is no small player in the global gold industry. It is the largest producer of gold in Africa and the 6th largest in the entire world. The country is so rich in gold that there is an old saying, "There is no land in Ghana without gold, even in the topsoil." Ghana is gold. This abundance is why the country was once called the Gold Coast during the colonial era. And it is this same abundance that holds the power to transform Ghana from a struggling economy into a high-income nation. Gold alone has the capacity to rewrite Ghana's destiny, if only the nation controls it. All the government needs to do is take back control of the sector, remove the dominance of Western companies, and set the rules itself. This does not always mean kicking foreign investors out completely. After all, many of them have made significant investments. But it does mean establishing terms that guarantee the country gets the maximum benefit from its own resources. This is exactly what President Traoré and the leaders of the AES are doing in their countries. And it is the same bold step President Dramani's government has taken by creating the Ghana Gold Board and stopping foreign companies from freely trading gold on Ghanaian soil. Moves like these mark the beginning of true sovereignty over resources. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like this video, share your opinion, and subscribe to our channel for more.